So yes, I'm finally back on the good camera for all you people out there so you can see my beautiful face, of course. And in today's video, I actually want to primarily focus on more gaming because I live, breathe, and sleep gaming. I absolutely love gaming. And right now, I actually want to talk about game genres or game franchises that I really don't play anymore for one reason or another. So sit back and relax and listen to me talk about game genres or game franchises that I don't like anymore for one reason or another. And you may learn a little bit about myself and a little bit about my taste in video games. So right off the bat, we're actually going to start with a category for Mario Party, because once upon a time I used to love the Mario Party series. It was engraved in me. I played it with my friends. I loved everything about Mario Party. Actually, the very first Mario Party that I ever played was back on the N64. I actually played Mario Party 2, I do believe, and after I played Mario Party 2, I was pretty much hooked from that day on, and I pretty much bought all the major releases for the Mario Party series. I got Mario Party 3, which I do believe was on the N64 as well, and then I got games on the GameCube, of course. I pretty much got all the GameCube Mario Party games, and I do know those games are very hit or miss. Some are good and some are not. A lot of those ones on the N64 actually use like a microphone to control a lot of the mini games. And then after the GameCube era, that's where Mario Party started to go downhill for me personally. And then after that, we got things on the Wii, like I think Mario Party 9, I think not 8 and 9 were both on the original Wii, and then we got Mario Party 10 on the Wii U, and then we got Super Mario Party now on the Nintendo Switch. And after that, I just don't think the quality of the games were good. But aside from the quality of the games not being all that good, in my opinion, looking back, I think I was also just burned out on the formula of Mario Party. You had the little mini games, and then alongside the mini games, if you wanted to play the board game aspect of Mario Party, you could play the board game aspect of Mario Party. But after that, I just really fed up of Mario Party after the GameCube era, and I pretty much never touched Mario Party after that. And I'm actually glad I didn't, because as far as I'm aware and as far as I'm concerned, all the Mario Parties after the GameCube era kind of went downhill, at least from what I heard and from what people have said about them, especially the Wii ones more so in particular. And I'm glad I actually got rid of that franchise. But that's a franchise, honestly, even if they make a good one in the series, I don't think I actually have any plans to actually return to, just due to the fact that I think the formula is getting stale. I don't really have a lot of friends like I used to do that would sit down and want to play couch co-op type games like that. And with Mario Party, that game that game actually deserves a good online multiplayer aspect with like a board game aspect, but Nintendo really dropped the ball with Super Mario Party on the Nintendo Switch with the online functionality. So I think my days are numbered when it comes to Mario Party. I'll never say never to any of these games or game genres, just due to the fact that you'll never know how I'll feel in the future, or if these games get much better, that I actually am enticed to go play one of these game franchises or one of these game genres outright. But for right now, I'm really just not feeling Mario Party. The next one on my list definitely has to go to a pretty popular game series, and that game series, believe it or not, is actually Gears of War. Once upon a time, I used to love the Gears of War franchise. I actually started with Gears of War 2, and Gears of War 2 was actually a game back on the Xbox 360. I actually played on release date. I was so excited for that game. I think I saw it in a magazine somewhere. I saw people talking about it. Overall, it seemed like it was a perfect game for me, and lo and behold, what happened when that game came out? It was my ultimate dream game. That game was amazing to me. I love the third-person action gun gameplay of that game. I love the fact that the story of that game was absolutely amazing. I love the character development. I love the combat. I love the graphics of that game. Overall, I loved a lot of different aspects of that game. Heck, I even love the multiplayer of that game. That definitely has to be one of my most played Xbox 360 game, whether it's the story of that game or whether it's the multiplayer of that game. I think the thing that kept me coming back to that game due to the multiplayer was the fact that they had a mode in Gears 2 called Horde. Horde is pretty much a game mode kind of like Call of Duty Zombies or Firefight in Halo, if you ever played any of those Horde type game modes where you play rounds and rounds of waves of enemies. And overall, I had so fun with that game. I ended up buying Gears of War 3. I loved Gears of War 3, but then after Gears of War 3, for some reason, my love for that franchise really started to dwindle down, and I really didn't play any of the other games. So I didn't play Gears Judgment. Something about Gears Judgment just really turned me off, and I know there might be some new stuff in there, whether it's the new guns in the game and things like that, but when I saw it, I was like, it just looks more like Gears of War, and I think I just spent too much time with 2 and 3. I was like, I don't really want to play any more games in the franchise, but I do owe it to myself to play things like 4 and 5, because I heard those are actually some amazing games. But for me, I really don't have any desire to actually go back to any Gears of War games. Granted, even though they still are good games, it's just that the formula to me is getting a little bit stale. It's pretty much a duck and cover type shooter. You guys know what I'm talking about if you played Gears of War. So honestly, I don't have any desire to play them. It is a shame I stopped playing Gears of War, because my love for Gears of War used to be sky high, and I was one of the biggest Gears of War fans back in the day personally when it comes to that series, but no longer am I a fan of that series, and it is a shame since, like I said, it's still a very good series, and they just released Gears 5 last year, so it is what it is. Another one on my list is actually one of the ones that may make you question my love for gaming, just because this is one of the biggest franchise out there. It might be the biggest one on this list in particular, and I'm talking about Pokemon. I stopped playing Pokemon, and I used to be the biggest Pokemon fan. I actually got Red and Blue on release date here in America, and I was so happy to play that game. That game was like a breath of fresh air to me when it comes to video games. I never actually seen anything like that with a big kind of open world. It's not really an open world game, but a big beautiful world like Pokemon at the time. I was very blown away by that game. I loved collecting Pokemon. I loved battling trainers. I loved everything about Pokemon. So I got Pokemon Red, and then I went to Gold and Silver, and then I went to Ruby and Sapphire. And then after Ruby and Sapphire, that's where things got really interesting for me, because that's when I pretty much stopped playing Pokemon. For some reason, I never played any of the Pokemon games back on the DS, for whatever the case may be. I touched none of the generations there. The last game that I actually played when it comes to Pokemon definitely has to be X and Y. Granted, I did play the remake of Red and Blue. I did play Pokemon Let's Go that came out a couple of years ago, but you don't really count that as a next generation of Pokemon, because it's just a remake of the original Pokemon game. So the last gen that I played that was brand new was X and Y, and for some reason, I think there was a number of reasons why I never played any of the DS Pokemon games. I think it really had to boil down to the fact that I don't think I had any friends that were playing that game. I think at the time that game came out, I think a lot of us were kind of getting out of gaming in one way or another. A lot of my friends were saying Pokemon's a little bit too old, we're in maybe high school or whatever, or we're a little bit too old to play this game, maybe we shouldn't play this game. So I didn't really know anybody personally that was playing that game. Also, when I saw footage of that game, I was like, I don't really like the graphics of this game. I don't like too much about this game, so I never played Diamond and Pearl. I never played Black and White 2, and things like that. I never really touched any of those games. I'm not too sure why I decided to get back into Pokemon with X and Y. I also think I didn't really return to Pokemon for such a long time. It's also due to the fact that I think the biggest reason for me not returning is definitely the gameplay. The gameplay never really evolved from generation to generation. Sure, the graphics got better, the animations got better, they added things here and there to make the gameplay a little bit better than the last version of Pokemon, but it's not like a big change enough to where I really want to play these games. And I think another driving force to make me not want to play Pokemon is the fact that you guys may not even know this about me personally. I'm a person that's not really a big fan of turn-based RPGs, and I think the turn-based RPGs for me really did let me down, because I'm kind of tired of turn-based RPGs, at least when it comes to Pokemon. Like I said, I'm not really a fan of too many turn-based RPGs. When I play RPGs in general, I just find them kind of boring in my opinion. I know not everyone agrees on that, but for me personally, I'm not too big into turn-based RPGs, and I think a lot of things built up to where I didn't play a Pokemon game to date. I think it's because I had a 3DS at the time, and I was super excited to see what Pokemon could offer on the next generation of consoles. So I wanted to try X and Y, and honestly, I wasn't disappointed with X and Y, but I wasn't blown away either. It was just more Pokemon, to be honest. And after playing X and Y, I don't really have any desire, to be honest, to play any of the other Pokemon games like Pokemon Sword and Shield and any of the next Pokemon games, unless they do something super drastic with the gameplay. I don't think I'm ever going to touch a Pokemon game, honestly. I know never say never in a lot of cases, but right now it's looking very slim that I'll ever return to a Pokemon game because I'm just tired of the formula, the turn-based gameplay. They're not doing enough to the gameplay to make it really feel like a brand new series. But again, of course, they're trying to still cater to those people who like the original Pokemon games. It makes sense. They wouldn't change the gameplay all too drastically to please people like me, and that's fine, but I wish they would take the series to the next step, and that's pretty much why I don't play Pokemon anymore, and I probably will never play Pokemon until they do something crazy with the formula. The next one is more so a genre than a certain franchise, and that's going to be sports games as a whole. I used to be big into sports games, like I used to buy NBA 2K. More so, I bought all the Maddens. I used to be a big Madden fan. I would buy Madden like every single year Madden came out, and also back during the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox days, they had a lot of arcade sports games, kind of like those NBA, kind of like those street games, whether it's NFL Street, NBA Street, and just other games like backyard baseball, backyard football, just a lot of different arcade sports games. And I think that's really what got me into sports games as a whole. I think those realistic sports games like Madden and 2K were very fascinating to me. I also love the arcade games, kind of like I said, NFL Street and NBA Street. I love those games, but as the years gone on, I really don't find myself buying too many sports games as a whole. I think it has to do with I'm kind of tired of some of those games. You can only get so realistic with those games. Another big driving force for me not really caring about sports games as a whole definitely has to go to the fact that games are $60, and I just don't like the fact that when you buy a sports game brand new, most likely you can only keep it for a year before it goes outdated, and I don't like wasting money like that. That's just me. Even if I get my full $60 worth of that year of that sports game like Madden or 2K, it's just something I don't feel too comfortable about, knowing that it's going to be a useless game in my collection. And another driving force that really did kill off sports games for me is, if you look at the state of sports games right now, they really don't make any sports games that are arcadey like the Street series. I really wish EA would bring back the Street series. I love the Street games. I owned all the Street games. I owned all the NBA Street games 1 through 3. I also owned a couple of the NFL Street games. I think on 360 or PSP or something, they did do a FIFA Street, and I played FIFA Street as well. And I did actually own the Blitz games, if you're familiar with those Blitz games, which were knockoff games, but they had amazing mechanics. Like, you can slow down time in those Blitz games. You can do a whole bunch of different things in those Blitz games, and those Blitz games were kind of realistic, but then kind of not. And then they made their own Blitz game called Blitz the League, which is a whole arcade game based off of unrealistic sports teams, and that's a game I loved a lot. And where are those games today? You don't see those arcade sports games all too often nowadays. Most of those games have already hit their deathbed, and they're pretty much deceased at this point, which is kind of a shame, because I would play those games. Honestly, another franchise that I'm kind of done with at this point is Call of Duty. I used to be the biggest Call of Duty fan. Fun fact, I started with the big red one back on the PS2. I'm one of the oldest Call of Duty fans, and then for the longest time, especially when Call of Duty 2 came out on the 360, I was blown away by the graphics. I know looking back at Call of Duty 2 on the Xbox 360, it's not really a mind-blowing game, but at the time it was a current-gen game. It also was one of the release titles for the Xbox 360. I loved Call of Duty 2, and then when Call of Duty Modern Warfare came out, which was titled 4, I think, that game changed the game more so in the multiplayer aspect of Call of Duty, and that's when people were mad talking about Call of Duty. Call of Duty was hot, Call of Duty was fresh, multiplayer was actually good for the first time, and people loved Call of Duty. And then after that, I pretty much started buying Call of Duties every single year on a rinse and repeat cycle, and nowadays I just don't find myself buying all the Call of Duties. I will buy a Call of Duty here or there, don't get me wrong. I still like that series. I still like shooters as a whole. I do play a lot of shooters, whether it's like those Battle Royale ones like Apex Legends, Warzone from Call of Duty, just shooters in general, especially first-person shooters. I am a big fan of first-person shooters, but for some reason Call of Duty is not changing enough to where I really feel like I want to buy Call of Duty all the time. And keep in mind, again, games are $60, and since games are $60, it's a little bit not practical for me to be buying a new Call of Duty knowing that the next Call of Duty is coming out next year, so I just pretty much wasted my money buying this year's version when no one's really going to be playing it a year or two from now, since the new version is going to be out. And the last one I'm pretty much going to combine. I'm going to combine this one because I think it's only fair. So I'm talking about Guitar Hero / rhythm games, because also that's those type of games I used to be really big in, whether it's Rock Band, Guitar Hero, DJ Hero, just rhythm games as a whole. But now I don't really find myself playing all too many rhythm games. I think it has to do with the fact that I'm kind of tired of rhythm games as a whole. I think the concept of just pressing buttons to something timed on a television screen or a monitor just doesn't really appeal to me anymore. And especially when we look at Guitar Hero and Rock Band, they kind of got boring after a while. I played all the Guitar Heroes. I remember playing Guitar Hero 1, 2, 3. After 3, I think I played Band Hero, and then after that, when they made Rock Band, specifically when they broke free from Guitar Hero, I played the Rock Band series, and the Rock Band series might have been the best time I ever had with a rhythm-based game based off of like a band, just due to the fact that they actually changed the formula in a big way. No longer were you tied to just a guitar, you were actually tied to things like a drum and a microphone, and that thing was actually pretty life-changing to me. When I first got Rock Band 1, when that concept was very new, I remember I played the heck out of the drums because there was nothing like it on the market at the time, and I don't regret my time at all playing Rock Band. But after that, that's when it really got stale to me, and I stopped really playing after Rock Band 2, I do believe. Rock Band 3, of course, did implement the piano, and then of course there's some other stuff and some other ones, but overall I didn't touch those at all because they weren't games that really did appeal to me. And I think also another reason why I didn't play a game outside of, I think, Rock Band 2 being my last Rock Band, and potentially I think my last video game that was based off of a rhythm game or a rock scene, is due to the fact that Rock Band 2 had so much DLC for that game. I was like, why would I ever want to buy Rock Band 3 or the next whatever when I can just literally sit here and buy DLC for Rock Band 2? And honestly, that's what I did with Rock Band 2. I pretty much bought all the DLC for Rock Band 2. My lord, if I'm looking back on my Xbox 360 hard drive, I literally spent probably $400, $500, $600, $700 on DLC alone for Rock Band 2. It's insane how much DLC I paid for that game, and it's also kind of a shame too how much money I spent for Rock Band 2. Who would have thought a game like that would have been one of my love childs as a gamer? I loved Rock Band 2 so much. But yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to return to a Rock Band or a Guitar Hero game, let alone I don't think they're going to make a brand new one. I know they did release one, I think last decade. They released Guitar Hero something, I forgot the name of it. I know they released Rock Band 4, but I really didn't look into that, and I really don't want instruments cluttering my house and things like that. Also, that's another driving force. These games usually require some kind of a peripheral that just clutters your house and just doesn't really do anything for me, and I'm not really a person that needs to collect all that stuff and things like that. So that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. Those are some game franchises or game genres that I really don't play anymore for whatever the case may be. And that's going to do it, like I said, for this video. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from MyTech News, signing out.